Hey, it's Leo. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my queer book reviews for Shoutout. Shoutout is a non-monetized digital media outlet that focuses on the news, business, politics, arts, and entertainment, particularly impacting the LGBTQIA+ community here in the Pacific Northwest. You can find me and other content creators at facebook.com/shoutoutpdx. It's been a rough week for many of us, and I will mention here shortly a couple of items that have been in the news. As with all my videos, I do have chapter breaks, so if you'd like to jump ahead and get to the books or to the nonprofit Lift Up, I encourage you to do so and do what you need to do to take care of you. As I said, it's been a hard week for many of us. Here in Portland last Saturday, we had the shooting of nonviolent racial justice protesters by a right-wing extremist that led to the death of a beloved community member, June Knightley, as well as injuring 5 others. There was also a lot of pain in the community regarding how the event was handled by both the police and the media initially. Nationally, we've also seen the passage of the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida and the virulent anti-trans legislation and verdicts from the governor in Texas. We've seen book banning all around the country, particularly books by queer authors and authors of color being banned. And internationally, we're all watching in horror as Russia invades Ukraine, and we're praying for the Ukrainians who are defending their land and their territory, but also reckoning with the racism in our global community in our response to this event, in contrast to other global conflicts and refugee situations. So it's a lot. I just wanted to lift up this tweet that came across my timeline here in Portland, Oregon, though I don't know the author. It is from Ursula Wolf Rocca, at Lady of Sardines, who writes, "It can be overwhelming to witness, experience, take in all the injustices of the moment. The good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you're helping to unravel the whole damn cloth. Let's keep working our corners. Solidarity." So I really liked that, and I'd like to encourage all of us to just keep working our corners. On that note, I would like to do a nonprofit lift up. Each week on my channel, I lift up a different nonprofit that's doing good in the world. I'll make a donation, and I encourage you to like, share, follow, donate as you are inspired. I think it's really important for us to see where all the people around the world are picking at these little threads and helping to work for justice and make the world a better place. This week's nonprofit lift up comes from a recommendation by Say Kevi, and I would like to lift up Trans Life Care, which is a program of Chicago House. Chicago House aims to play a critical role in eliminating new infections and getting to zero by 2030, and believes that housing is essential to ending the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Annually, they serve nearly 2,000 individuals and families across 4 pillars of their program: housing, health, employment services, and the Trans Life Care program. So their Trans Life Care program provides free health care and social services to vulnerable individuals who identify as trans, non-binary, or gender expansive. And their programs offer support for housing, legal, medical, sexual health, and employment. They offer 3 resource drop-in centers on the north, south, and west sides of Chicago, and provide access to the on-site health care providers, sexual health screeners, legal counsel, case managers, employment, and so much more. These drop-in centers give individuals immediate response to their current needs. So that sounds pretty great, and I definitely trust Kevi's recommendation. So thank you to her for that. So I'll make a donation, and I encourage you to check out Trans Life Care and the Chicago House. Also, I'm always open to hear what nonprofits and organizations are inspiring you or doing good in your part of the world. Please let me know in the comments below. I love to hear about these organizations and to lift them up. Now on to the books. Wait, before we get on to the books, I need to make an amendment to one of my questions in last week's video, which was the Atwood Adventure tag. Last week, question 8 asked what was my favorite word, and the word that I landed on was ornithologist, which is a pretty great word. But I completely forgot that my favorite word is octothorpe. Octothorpe is another word for hashtag or £, which I always thought came from Old English, which meant 8 roads leading into a village, which it does have roots of that in it. But Merriam-Webster says it was invented in 1971 by some guy who wanted to honor a guy named Thorpe. So I don't know. Have you heard of octothorpe? I think there's a conspiracy cover-up. Let me know in the comments. I think instead of saying hashtag, we should start saying octothorpe. Let's see what would instead of hashtag blessed, octothorpe blessed. Okay, it doesn't have the same ring to it. Let's now get on to the books. So I have 3 books for you today. The first is a memoir, and that is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, which has this gorgeous cover. This is a nonfiction memoir by George M. Johnson about growing up as a young gay black man. He describes his experiences from childhood up through college and talks about various traumas. He talks about getting jumped as a small child and what it meant for him to get his teeth kicked in. He also shares experiences of connecting with his grandma and like going flea marketing, and she lent him money to start up a little business where he would buy candy at the dollar store or whatever and sell it marked up to his classmates until their parents complained, which I thought was funny. He talks about his first sexual relationships and about going to an HBCU and pledging to their fraternity and what that meant. He also covers topics such as how Black history is taught in schools and some of the things he learned and different experiences in the different schools he attended, as well as sharing his reflections on when one of his family members came out as trans. I'm actually going to refer you to 2 other book reviews on this book as well, because I think they add some really valuable insights. The first is on Timothy Dwight's page. He reviews All Boys Aren't Blue and also reflects on his own experience growing up as a young gay black man, which I found really helpful. And also Ashley at Bookish Realm, she reviews All Boys Aren't Blue and Hood Feminism and talks about how both of them get to intersectionality and explore that topic. And she has some great information as well as links to some of Kimberly Crenshaw's work on intersectionality. So definitely recommend you check out both of those channels. I recommend All Boys Aren't Blue, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. I give it 4.5 stars. I appreciate the care with which the author expresses his story. To me, it seems really obvious that he is seeking to mentor and support young queer black youth, which I think is really important. And I think it's a great question for all of us to think about how we do. And he's able to do that by sharing his life and having representation, not just on the page, but as someone out in the world who is thriving. Next, I want to talk about a YA sapphic romance, and that is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I had heard so many rave reviews about this book and so many people that said, you will just love it, it's a delight, and I agree. I had kind of resisted at first because I wasn't sure I was buying into the premise, which is that the character, Liz Leidy, wants to go to an expensive and elite university, and the scholarship she had been counting on fell through, and so she's going to run for prom queen to try to win that scholarship money to pay for her schooling. And I was like, well, I don't know, really? But it sucked me in, let me tell you. One of the great things about this book is representation, and including Liz deals with anxiety and panic attacks, is pretty closeted as a lesbian, and also is one of the few black kids in a predominantly white Midwestern high school. There's also a class division as well. She doesn't have a lot of money, but there are a lot of her classmates who are pretty wealthy. She's also dealing with the recent death of her mother, and so there's some grief work in there, as well as the chronic illness of her brother with sickle cell, which is actually why she wants to be a doctor, because she lost her mother to that disease and now her brother is living with it, and she wants to make a difference in the world and in the lives of those with this disease. In the story, we have some really great character arcs. Even some of the minor characters, we get to see them develop over time. There's themes of self-acceptance and taking up space where you thought maybe you couldn't have a voice or be yourself. Liz does some critique of the social dynamics of the prom and what that means, particularly looking at power dynamics in the town and in the high school. And then we have a really lovely sapphic female-female romance. Great characters in this book, as I mentioned. There's conflict but growth. I really enjoyed the love interest, the former best friend, the little brother, and the grandma, and I guess the grandpa who's always napping in the background, as well as some of the other prom participants. I felt like as we moved towards the ending of the book, then as we learned about some of the background of these teenagers, and many of them had gone to school together throughout the years and interactions that had happened over the years, I appreciated that. It kind of helped everything make sense in how the ending came about. I also wound up buying into the premise of the contest for the prom king and queen, where this town has it expend over several weeks and there's a variety of different events, and it was much more engaging than I had anticipated. And it also created a variety of story plot points that I thought were fun and interesting. So I give this book 4.5 stars, and I recommend it to folks looking for a fun and thoughtful YA romance with sapphic elements and good characters and good rep. The last book I want to talk to you about is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. In this book, our protagonist Alice is a Black biromantic asexual woman who is sophomore, I believe, in college. She's trying to navigate the way through the world where her parents really want her to be a lawyer and are pressuring her to major in political science, and she does not want to. And at the start of the book, her girlfriend dumps her in a pretty harsh way because of basically her being asexual. She winds up moving in with her two best friends who are engaged. There's some dynamics there of definitely her being a third wheel in that relationship and struggling with that, but them trying to also figure out how to stay connected. This is over the summer break, and she's working at the library, and she meets the hot new employee Takumi and falls for him. And the book is a lot of exploration of her trying to wrestle with being asexual, but also being drawn to this man, and what does that mean for their friendship, and could there be more, etc. This is a lighthearted romance with fun characters that explores the topic of asexuality. She even goes to a therapist, and we get to hear some of those conversations as she learns a little bit more about asexuality and like how that impacts her in her own life. I think for people who are unfamiliar, it can answer the question of like, do asexual people have relationships? Is there a happily ever after for them, and what does that look like? And I love how everything in the book played out, particularly the relationship between Alice and her best friend Feeny. And I feel like there are readers who are going to really align with one or the other, at least based on the reviews I was looking at. There's a particular scene where Feeny and the fiance make a decision that winds up putting Alice in a situation that is unsafe, and they never really explore that in conversation. There's rifts in the friendship and that's a conflict that they have to work through. But to me, I was frustrated that they didn't address the danger that she had faced in that situation. Other people have complained that they felt that Alice was uninteresting as a character because she just wanted to watch Netflix and eat. But I can definitely relate to that, especially, as a 19-year-old in college. I think that is okay to have that be your hobby. But I definitely recommend this book for people who are looking for a fun YA romance that has a lot of pop culture references and some college student angst. I think that it's great for people looking to see ace rep on the page and a relationship with asexuality and asexual characters. The author herself is also a Black biromantic asexual, so there's own voices. Overall, I enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. Well, that's everything. I hope you found something interesting to read. What have you been finding on your bookshelves these days? Please remember to like and subscribe if you like this content. Let me know your thoughts. Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. And until next time, happy reading.